What's up? I'm Ryan,
I'm River.
and we are b.creativ. You're listening to The Push. Today we're talking about sustainable business fail number 5. It's the 5th part in the series 11 sustainable business fails that are killing your business. Feel free to visit our website linked below and download the free ebook. So let's get into it. Sustainable business fail number 5. You're a vegan, locally sourced, whatever, sustainable restaurant, and you're using plastic plates, plastic silverware, and non-sustainable to-go containers, etc., etc. Knife in the chest. It's a tough one.
It is. So we have a little story about this. And it's a typical story, and we run into it a lot. And so we've traveled a lot together around the world, Southeast Asia, Europe, America. And everywhere we go, we always are looking for that restaurant, that vegan, sustainable, fair trade, the restaurant that's doing everything right. Because we're not always in a situation to source all of those items to create that in the situation that we're in, if we're in a hotel or an Airbnb or something like that. And so we like to experience. We like to engage in community and meet restaurant owners and talk to the people and employees that are working there because they share common interests with us. And it's always an interesting experience. And so we're traveling and we find this place. It has great reviews, and everyone raves about how delicious the food is and the quality and that they're doing all the things right. And we ride up, we get there, and we put in an order, and we sit down, and the order comes, and they bring it to us with plastic utensils, and it's wrapped in styrofoam containers, and we just end up eating what is usually a very delicious meal. And the result...
God damn it. Hold that thought.
And then we're left with a soul-crushing amount of waste. And this is something that just is a knife to the heart. And it really goes a long way to change the sentiment of the experience.
I think the sentiment is a really good point. When you go to a vegan, sustainable-based restaurant, you're super excited. The food looks amazing. You're happy about the fact that you're, going to be having less of a negative impact on the world by making the decision to go eat at this place. And when you walk in there, you make your order, you're super stoked, and when the food shows up in a plastic cup with plastic silverware, you go from being really happy to feeling guilty. And as a business, you should be working at all costs to make sure this never happens ever. You want the experience to be completely positive. You want me to leave your restaurant feeling super happy and amazing and satisfied with the food. If you, by some chance, allow your customer to flip their inner sentiment from being positive and happy to negative and guilty, it's a huge fail. People are coming to your vegan restaurant because of their values to begin with. Maybe they just care about the animals, sure. But most people out there, and ever increasingly as sustainability grows, people are more conscious of the negative impact they're having, not just in the lives of animals, but also in the world, on Earth. And every time that you do not satisfy the needs of a sustainable person when they're coming to your sustainable restaurant to begin with, it's a huge fail. It's a huge loss. I know when I've gone to these restaurants and I'm super stoked and it immediately flips towards feeling guilty about being there and using all the plastic, I don't go back. And as River mentioned in our last podcast, the easiest thing or the easier task is retaining a customer over winning new customers. So once you have spent that money to bring in that new customer, you've spent that cost of customer acquisition, you cannot just be throwing customers away by this small task of sourcing sustainable or unsustainable materials.
It's like sustainable shaming, right? Like you've shamed me for being like you've guided me down this path of sustainability. You've fed me some delicious food. You've buttered me up, and then at the end, you slapped me in the face and you shamed me. And now I'm sitting there in disgust because I don't know what to do. You know, I'm torn. Do I come back to this place because it's delicious, or do I never come here again because of the amount of unsustainability that I was left with at the end of this experience? You know, which is not a good feeling. And the answer is we're not coming back. We're not going to come back to your business, and neither is someone else who actually really cares about what's going on, which is huge.
I'm the type of consumer, when I go to the grocery store and I am going there only to buy red peppers, and I go to the produce aisle and each red pepper is wrapped in plastic, single serving, packaged red peppers, I don't buy red peppers. Red peppers do not go into my dinner that night. I walk out because I'm not willing to buy that red pepper. I would much rather sacrifice the red pepper in my meal. So this applies directly towards your business. If you get someone in the door, you can't shoo them away by having terrible packaging. I don't care how good the food is, it will leave a bad taste in someone's mouth.
So what's the other side? Right? What's the opposite of the story? What is the goal? I'm a sustainable business owner. I'm listening to this podcast, and I'm having a revelation. I thought I was doing everything right, and now I'm hearing from a sustainable business agency that I am screwing up in the ninth inning. You know, bases are loaded. I'm about to hit a home run to win the World Series or the game or whatever, and I strike, and I'm striking out. I'm wasting my money. What's the other side of that? What's the situation where I hit the home run and I save the day as a business owner and I provide for my community and my customers and my employees in an effective way?
Let me answer that with a story.
Love stories.
When I was in Vietnam, when River and I were in Vietnam together, we're ripping up motorcycles through rice paddies in Vietnam, and we get to a town called Dalat. Really cool place, kind of French inspired, in this valley. Everywhere else in Vietnam, it was like super hot. And this particular town, it was 10 to 15 degrees Celsius cooler in a really, really great way. So we find this one restaurant called Upcycle. Actually more of a cafe. And we go there to work one day. And we walk in. We're like, what is going on here? They take this upcycle theme and they kind of brought it into the world of bicycles. So they upcycled bicycles and put them all over the cafe. They were on the walls. They were hanging from the ceilings. They took the gears and the chains and created a fan system on the roof where all the fans are working together in this like gear system to cool the place down, all from recycled, upcycled bicycle chains. They had a wall in the back that was vinyl records and wood looking like vinyl records are exploding out of like a volcano in the back. Super cool place. So from a visual perspective, they put a lot of attention to detail in that place, just to set the scene a little bit. Then we get our coffees. They're in very unique upcycled coffee mugs. No two mugs are the same. So they source their coffee mugs probably through thrift stores, old junk bins, and found some cool, unique cups. Same deal with the plates. They had all like porcelain plates. They had steel silverware. They had cool, unique cups. Everything in that restaurant was thoughtful and recycled and upcycled. They even gave us cloth napkins. So no disposable trash napkins.
Actually, nothing that was disposable at all.
Nothing disposable in the entire place. And we went back to that place and back to that place and back to that place every single day. They had some cool tunes pumping on the speakers. You really for us it comes back to that cafe a lot because man, they just served as such a role model in what you can do to have an amazing place where it's sustainable at its core, it's artistic at its core, it's thoughtful at its core. And when you have a place like that, it really leaves a mark on the people that go there. So much so that we have told countless people about it.
Everyone.
And when we open up our cafe in the future, that perfect workplace that we want to work at every day, it's going to in many ways embody a lot of what that place did. So already they're serving as a global leader. This tiny little cafe in this small town in Vietnam are already a global thought leader in how to have a cool, edgy, sustainable restaurant. And that's just a pretty freaking cool thing.
It's inspiring, really.
It's very inspiring.
It just goes to show that there are companies, probably a lot like the companies of the people who are listening to this podcast, that are doing great things, and they're doing it all the way with a circular mindset of everything that they have, and every process, every action that an employee is taking, that an owner is taking, that the kitchen staff is taking. This is a prime example of how to do something correct within the world of sustainability.
Sure. Have fun with it. Send your employees out to thrift stores. Send your employees, whenever, let it be known to your employees that whenever anyone's giving away dishes and, mom just upgraded her kitchen, unfortunately, tell them that you'll take those plates, and nothing has to match. The less things are homogenous, the more they are unique, the cooler they are, and the more that they will have an impact on the customers that come there. So you're not spending money on buying throwaway packaging. You're having fun sourcing cool materials. You're showing your thoughtfulness and your artisticness to your customers. You're saving money. You're driving more value. It's just a win-win from every perspective.
We always go back to this point, right, in all of our podcasts, and that is, what is the value of this? And we've touched on a few different points of value, but I want something concrete. I can, as a person and as a human, I can value art, right? I understand that art is inherently one of the most sustainable human actions. I understand upcycling. I understand circular economy. I understand these different practices that have gone into the example that you've given, and how that can be lived out in my life. But can you give me something concrete?
Sure. So people today are wanting to be more and more sustainable in the products that they buy and the actions that they take. So a couple statistics. In a survey of over 1,000 people from the 2019 U.S. Consumer Sustainability Survey, overall on average, in 2019, a third of people are willing to spend 25% more for sustainable products. A third of people is across all ages, demographics. It may seem kind of small. But then if you look at just Gen Z customers, which are your future customers, they're the ones who are maturing into high-paying jobs. They're going to be maturing into the 30 to 40 range that are buying houses and spending more and more on an everyday basis. They are, in general, willing to spend 50 to 100% more on sustainable alternatives. We always have to be looking towards the future. If you're just looking towards now, you're going to miss out on the trend. We already know sustainability is growing. So if you want to be more sustainable, but you're worried about the costs, realize people will pay a little bit more to cover the cost of that compostable to-go container. You know, we've talked a little bit about the hard, tangible in-restaurant utilities like plates, porcelain plates, steel, plasticware, but of course to-go containers are a thing too. Most of them are plastic, styrofoam, very unsustainable. But if it costs 10, 15, 20 cents, even 50 cents more per unit to source a compostable, biodegradable to-go container, and you need to charge 50 cents more per item to cover that cost, do it. People will pay that extra little bit. 50 cents on top of an $8 or $9 good is a very small percentage as compared to the percentages in the facts that I just shared with you.
And we're not saying that it's okay for you to greenwash something and price gouge. That's not what we're saying.
Of course.
We're not saying immediately restructure your entire pricing model so that you can take advantage of someone who's willing to pay a significantly higher amount more. The point of this is to say be sustainable because it's still profitable. But in the long term, what we want is more sustainable businesses doing more sustainable things, providing more sustainable products, so it becomes the norm and all prices can be brought down, right?
We're saying that just because the sustainable alternative costs 50 cents more, just increase your prices by 50 cents. It doesn't mean you have to increase your product prices by 50% or 100% because you think sustainable-minded people will pay those prices. No, that's not what we're saying. But we're saying
ethical.
Be ethical, but understand that your customers will cover the costs of doing business in a better way. Along with sourcing those more sustainable materials, tell your customers what you're doing. Tell them that you're buying the bio-compostable to-go containers and that they cost a little bit more, so you increase the prices on things, on to-go items by 50 cents. And they will buy it in a heartbeat. They will eat it up. They will love it. I would love to hear that I'm being charged 50 cents more because the to-go container that I'm taking home with me is completely compostable. I will tell my friends about that in a very positive light, and I will come back and have no guilt and no negative sentiment associated with ordering to-go food from your restaurant.
You know who else will really love to share this information? We mentioned this in our last podcast about giving your employees tools to live more sustainably and to work more sustainably with you, enlightening your employees on what you are doing so they can share that information. You know, if I work somewhere, I would love to be able to tell every customer who came into the shop, hey, we don't use any single-use cups for our coffee. It's all secondhand, it's all unique, it's all whatever it is that you have made it to be that's more sustainable than the other things. And they're going to share that information, and that's going to relay back, like you said, to the customer, who's then going to share that information out with everyone else that they run into because they're proud. It creates a sense of pride within where you're shopping. Where am I spending my money? What am I investing in? And that is a huge value.
If you don't believe us and you don't necessarily believe that your customers will cover this cost or be okay with covering this cost or think that it's a positive thing that you charge an extra 50 cents for a good to-go container, why don't you ask your customers at the register? Ask them on the phone when they call. Be like, hey, we are thinking about switching towards compostable to-go containers. It's going to cost an extra 50 cents per to-go item, but what do you think about that? Are you okay? Would you be okay with just covering the additional cost of that better environmentally friendly container? Do your own survey. I already know how it's going to turn out.
So do I. It's going to turn out great.
It's going to turn out great. They're going to love it. And then if you haven't made that shift in the next week or two, they're going to be like, hey, when is this happening? I thought you said you were doing this. And then they'll hold you accountable for having the idea, which is also a positive thing. So just to recap, you have a sustainable base of customers. You have a vegan restaurant, a sustainable coffee shop, but you haven't made the switch to not using unsustainable to-go containers, plates, knives, cups. Every single time your customer comes in and sees those things, it hurts. The best way you can retain customers is to have sustainable materials, sustainable items be used within your restaurant and within your space. People will talk about it. You'll become a leader in the community. People will pay more, not to be gouged, but to cover the cost of those sustainable materials so that they can walk away from your restaurant with no guilt, no negative sentiment, feeling good, feeling satisfied, feeling happy for having eaten a delicious meal, drinking a delicious coffee, a delicious juice, and not had a negative impact on the environment.
So, if you are interested in learning more about this, you can check out our guide, 11 Sustainable Business Fails That Are Killing Your Business. It's linked in the comments. If you're listening on Spotify, you can go check it out on YouTube.
You can check it out on our website, b.creativ, without the E at the end, .org. You'll find it right on our homepage, the link to it. And yeah, we'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to hear pain points that you're having in your business around finding and sourcing sustainable materials. We'd love to hear any success stories that you've had switching to sustainable materials. Anything you want to tell us, we'd be more than happy to hear it, and we'd be stoked to respond.
Thank you. My name's River.
I'm Ryan. We're b.creativ, and this is The Push. See you next time.